Hi, my name is Kirsty. Welcome to Kirsty Knits and Sews. This is episode number 44, where I just come and share with you all the things that I am currently making. I knit, I sew, I crochet, I dabble in a whole lot of fibre fun, spinning, other things as well. So just every couple of weeks, I like to come on and share with you what I've been doing most recently. I have gone through phases where I've been a more monogamous knitter, and phases where I do all the things. And at the moment, I'm kind of straddling the two. I have all the things cast on, but I'm kind of focusing on one or two at a time. So let's talk about that. I also have stats for March to share with you. And today I have spinning. I have knitting with handspun. I have crochet, and I have a little bit of sewing to share with you as well. Let's get going. In terms of stats, I'm just tracking how many things I make and how many grams I use. And that is actual grams. That's not like a skein out where I count 100 even though I use 70. It is what I make, I weigh, and that's what I count as out. This year, for the first time in a few years, I have not actually counted up my stash at the beginning of the year. I haven't recorded everything that I have anywhere at the moment. I'm just using and counting what I use. I have still been buying things, but I'm not counting that. I'm not tracking that, I should say. I'm still counting it. It's coming into my stash, but I'm not tracking that anywhere. I'm just tracking what I use. And because I have all of the things going at the same time and I'm jumping around doing bits and pieces on different things, what I'm using, I'm only tracking when that object is finished, not when I'm not like weighing an object at the beginning of the month, knitting on it, weighing it at the end of the month and figuring out how much I use that month. I think that would be interesting. I'm not doing that. So, where am I? In March, I finished 4 things. I finished my modern mocks, which I'm actually wearing today. Great, I love them. I finished some strappy socks, which I showed maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago. I finished some waffle socks, which I showed last episode, and I finished a prayer blanket, which I will share with you in a minute. Excuse me, I am on the tail end of a cold, so if I'm coughing or my voice sounds a bit funny, that's why. I do have tea here. I'm pretty sure this is my own mix of it's Assam with some lapsang souchong, so 5-to-1 ratio of that, and then some rose petals and lemon verbena. If you're interested, I like making tea, I like drinking tea. So those 4 objects total came to 571 grams. So that's what I used in March. I'm happy with that. I deliberately started doing it this way because by this way I mean not tracking what's coming in, just tracking what's going out, because I realized that I was choosing what I made based on what would get stuff out of my stash quicker. And that's not necessarily the stuff I like making the most. I like having mindless knitting. If you've been around for a while, you know that. I like mindless knitting. But I also like designs, colour play, patterns. And if I'm just trying to knit quick to get stuff out of my stash, then I'm generally not appreciating the yarn that I'm knitting as much as I could be. And I'm choosing designs and things not based on what I actually want to wear or what I want to make, but based on what uses things quicker. And I don't like that idea. I like knowing how much I'm using so that when I'm buying, I'm more mindful of that. But to just use stuff for the sake of using it seems a little bit silly to me. This is yarn that we've bought, that we've been given, that is special, is beautiful, and I want to enjoy it. So that's part of why I don't track what comes in anymore. I just track what I'm using, and just not trying to balance those numbers has given me a lot more freedom in terms of what I choose to knit on. which I'm excited to share with you because there are some projects that I've been working on that just make my heart sing. So, let's talk about what I've got, what I finished, what I haven't. And then I'll talk a little bit, I'm putting the book on this is my knitting book. I did change the front, put some stickers on, took off the glunky green ones. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what I've actually been working on. And then maybe at the end, if I've got time, I'll share a little bit about what I'm wanting to work on. I am surrounded by stuff. You know what? I'm going to do the sewing first today because it's right here and it's not actually that much. I've sewn 4 more blocks of the quilt that I was working on last time, and I'm ready to put this away. I don't know how many blocks I've still got to go, probably like 12. But I'm going to put this away for a while because it is time to sew raincoats for the kids. We're getting back into raincoat season and my kids need new ones. So I'm going to sew them, which meant I needed to clean off my sewing desk area. So this is 1, 2, 3, oh, this isn't working very well, 3, 4. I love that one. Yeah, so that is 4 blocks now finished out of the, I don't know how many I need, 20 something that I need. I don't know if it's 4x5 or how the actual layout of the quilt is. I started this quilt, it's called Surrounded. I started it in 2020, worked on it a lot in 2021, and like I think I finished cutting it out in 2021 and sewing it together, and it's just kind of sat there since then. But I did look it up since I mentioned it here last time, and Surrounded is actually, I think it might be a Civil War quilt. Don't quote me on that, but it is an old quilt that people have remade in different ways. So I got this one from a scrap book, which I think was called Oh Scrap. Again, don't quote me on it. I couldn't find it when I was looking for it, but I think it was called Oh Scrap, and it had a scrappy version of this. But I think the original was maybe 2 color or just like a red and white with different reds. And there's a whole bunch of different iterations of this quilt now. There's free patterns, there's all sorts of things. So if you're interested, Google Surrounded. It's definitely fun. I'm just had enough of sewing those blocks now, so I'm going to put them away. And that works with what I had been planning, was to get a quilt out, work on it for a little bit, put it away, move on to the next one. So put it away, do some raincoats, and then move on to the next one. All right, in terms of yarny things, I did finish the prayer blanket. Still not blocked. Isn't that terrible? I need to block it and send it off. This is for a friend in Australia. Yeah. I should mention, my name is Kirsty. I'm from Australia originally. I live in Poland with my husband and my 2 kids. And yeah, so I still have a lot of friends. All of our other family are in Australia. And this is for a friend who is having a baby. And there's just been some complications with the bubs. And so I made this while I prayed for the baby and for the family. And so I need to block it and send it off. I think I mentioned last time, it isn't sitting kind of flat, and I don't know how much that will change when I block it. It is a free pattern, Rainbow Ripple Baby Blanket, and it is designed as a 12-point star. I've done it as a 12-point star, and whenever I do, it doesn't sit quite flat. When I've done an 11-point star accidentally, it actually sits a lot flatter. So there you go. It is what it is. I'll block it, see if it stretches out a little bit. They're not going to worry, and it will definitely be cozy and keep the child warm, which is what we want. The yarn for this, just looking around me, do I actually have the yarn tag? It was Karen's Skinny Cakes from Spotlight Australia is where I bought it. I bought it on sale. I remember that. I don't have the number here with me. I did buy it on sale, but It was meant to be a 150 gram ball. No, 250 gram ball. Now I'm confused. Yeah, it was meant to be a 250 gram ball. This blanket is 231 grams. Did I add that up wrong then? I may have added that up wrong. I thought it was a 5, but it's a 2. Anyway, it was meant to be a 250 gram ball. It is 231 grams, and I cannot. That's going to bug me now. I had it, and I put it aside so I could show you. I had a little bit left. And when I weighed what I had left with the blanket, it was only 241 grams, which means that of the 250 gram cake that I was meant to have, I was 9 grams short. When I got to the last round, so I mentioned last time that it would have finished on this yellowy, like the goldy yellow color, but it wouldn't be enough to go around the whole edge. And I was trying to figure out whether it was okay to have a partially finished yellow at the end. I didn't even get to it. Where is the end? Here's the end. So you can see it had this much orange from the previous color, the orangey brown, and then it did 2 full colors on the outside and was, I think, close to changing to the next color when I finished the round. And I'd weighed it, and I wasn't going to have enough. I think it was using like 13 or 14 grams of yarn per round at that point. So I wasn't going to have enough to do a whole other round. But if I'd had the full cake, then I would have had enough to do the full other round. So I don't know whether it was designed in a way that you got 3 full repeats, because that is what I got. Like I got 3 full repeats of the colour, and they were estimating the yarn, or whether it was meant to be that you get as many colours as you get, but the right amount of yarn. But anyway, I was a little bit sad that I didn't have the full amount in that, because I could have done 1 extra row, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make much difference, 1 extra row in terms of size or usability of this. So I do need to block it and send that off to Australia, but since I haven't done that yet, I thought I'd still share it with you so you could see it in case it's sent before the next one. I am using the stool that my camera is on to hold my cup of tea. Hopefully that's not going to get annoying. All right, so that, I think, is my only finish. That's all right. Like I said, I'm not just trying to finish things for the sake of finishing them. Yeah, no, I finished that the day after I recorded last time. So there you go. In terms of things that I'm currently working on, this one I'm not currently working on, but I was working on it since I last showed you. So I'm going to show you this again. Yeah, basically every time I do an episode, I try and show you everything I've worked on since the previous episode. But did I just say previous episode? But at the moment, I'm kind of changing my things that I'm focusing on every month. And so we're in April, I've got new things, but this was something in March that I was working on. So let me find the tags. Seriously, where are the tags? Maybe? All right, so this one is with Earth Yarns. And I have Harvest in colour indigo, and I also have Unique in colour, do I have the tag? Come on. Yes, Unique in colour 3008. These yarns were a Christmas present from my parents and my sister and her family. two Christmases ago, and I cast it on September last year. So this is the indigo colour, beautiful rich blue, and then this is the unique one, which is just a colour change, and I do have a full, there you go. That'll give you a bit of a better idea of all the colours in this. So you can see it has sections of colours, and you've kind of got 2 colours per section, and I'm making the butterfly papillion shawl. And it's still on short needles, but here it is. There we go. So you can see the needles that it's on are quite short, but you can get that, the picture of what is going on here. It's a short row shaping, so my parents watch this podcast. My mum is a big knitter. My dad is knits a little bit, but mostly just likes to see his daughter when I live on the other side of the world. So the way that it's done, it is a paid for pattern. I'm not going to give details away because it is paid for, but also I've been knitting for a long time, and this is not the kind of pattern that I would want to try to copy without actually using a pattern. Like, there are some things you can go, that's really simple and I don't need a pattern for that. This is not very simple. But basically what it is every time you see a blue line, that's just knitting. Like, that's just knitting. All of the shaping happens in these other colours, and these are short row sections. And so the designer, what's her name? I remember I looked for this last time and it was not simple to find. Let me see. Marinia Knits. She's on Ravelry as Marinja, M-A-R-I-N-J-A, Marinia Knits. She, I'm assuming it's a she, yeah, does all the shaping in these short rows. And so when you get to the blue, straight knitting, so simple. But the way that they've designed it is that all of these short rows sit on top of each other perfectly so that you end up with a flat shawl. You're not getting bumps and waves. And using the unique yarn, because it has sections of the same colour, and you might have, you know, pink, green, pink, blue, orange, blue. It means that you get, you know, these sections where it's the same, but then also the bits where it changes. It's just beautiful. A long gradient would also be beautiful, but it would mean that you would have kind of the gradient from the inside to the out. This one, it just means you get these little pops of the different colours, and it's just beautiful. So last time I showed it, I was around here, or maybe I was working on this one here. This thicker section of blue, that signifies the end of section 1. So all that you see in here is section 1. From that bigger blue to here, that's section 2, and I just have section 3 to go, and then it'll be done. I did work on this a lot in March. Like, I was still back somewhere in section 1 when I picked it up for March. So I did a lot in March, and I really considered working on it in April and pushing through to the end. But then I realized the word pushing. It's not that I was like, I want to keep working on this. It was like, hey, I'm close to the end. Can I get there? And there are times I absolutely push with my knitting where I'm like, I'm so close, let's do this. And then there are times where I'm like, you know what? I'm not close. This is a natural point to put it down. End of section 2. So I'm going to put it down. So I've put it down. I've put it away. I'm kind of wondering whether I'll put it away for April and then get it out again in May, because I'm so enjoying it. Seeing the sections come together, I was really enjoying it. I'm at the point where the pattern itself is somewhat second nature to me, so I don't want to leave it too long that I forget how the pattern works. But I also just didn't want to keep working on it right now. So I'm thinking maybe putting it away for a 1 month break and then getting it out again. It is a beautiful, beautiful pattern. Actually, someone else commented that they're working on the same shawl and it's their older sweep. So maybe if you haven't got it out again yet, next month we can work on it together. This one was, September 2024. So it's not my oldest whip, it's my third oldest knitting whip. That doesn't count blankets. Don't count blankets in my whip list. All right, so the next one that I have to share with you today is in another bag that I made. I should again mention I've made almost all of my bags, and for bags like this I have a tutorial that will be linked below in the description box, so that if you want to make your own bags, there is information there in how to do it. The size that is there is closer to this, kind of a one skein sock bag, but I do give information in the tutorial about how you can adjust the size to suit you. All right, so this one, I've started making some more progress on my raglan sweater. So this was day 10 of my 12 cast-ons. If you don't know what 12 cast-ons is, Ange of Yarn and Yarns does a make-along every year where between the 24th of December and the end of January, you cast on up to 12 projects and then you work on them for the next year and see what you can get finished. This was day 10 of my 12 cast-ons, and I do have a playlist linked below if you want to go back and have a look at this or any of the other ones that I have been making. So this is a basic raglan sweater. I do not have a pattern. I'm making this one up based on some stitch counts that I had done for a different project. I'm not certain I love it still. Isn't that the way sometimes? But I know that blocking will make a difference. So I'm just going ahead with it. I'll finish it, I'll block it, and then I'll see. I don't remember last time if I had finished or not, but I have now cast off the body. I think I had, but I'm not sure. So I've cast off the body. It's not a very long body. I was thinking of kind of a cropped sweater over dresses for this. So I didn't want it to be too long, but I was reflecting on the dresses that I have, and a lot of them will either have long sleeves or I have a 3/4 sleeve one, but they tend to have kind of a little bit of volume around the sleeves. Not necessarily puffed sleeves, but a bit of volume around the sleeves. So I didn't want to have like really tight sleeve sweater. And while I didn't mind having it, you know, tighter around the chest, I did want to have a bit of room in the arms. I tend to find arms is where my sweaters are usually tight when I'm doing two pattern. I tend to find my arms are where it's usually tight when I'm doing to pattern, and so I wanted to have room in the arms. When I picked up the sleeves and started knitting this one, I thought that is a lot of room. This is going to be way too big. But then I stopped myself and I was like, Kirsty, you know your like sleeve circumference, you know what it is, and you know that it's almost always too tight when you do a jumper. This is, I think it's working out like 1 or 2 inches positive ease for the sleeve, which seems a lot, but I also know this is superwash, and when it blocks, it's gonna stretch out a little bit, and I think that may be where sometimes it gets me, is that I'm like, oh, that's measuring right, and then when it blocks, it doesn't fit anymore. So I'm going with it. If it is an oversized sleeve, it is an oversized sleeve. My hope is to do kind of a balloon sleeve or a puffy sleeve. I'm not adding, I think I've got 2 decreases so far. So I'm just gonna keep going see how long I can get before I have to do the cuff, and just go with it because the yarn. I'm using Maximu yarns double knit in both Art Room Brawl. This is 100% superwash merino in DK weight, and Icebreaker. So this is Art Room Brawl with the pinks, purples, blues, teals, and this is Icebreaker with some of that royal blue and orange as well on top of the mint. When I bought this, they only had 3 skeins of the Art Room Brawl, so I bought one of the Icebreaker too, and I am just striping it in. So the collar is completely Art Room Brawl, and then the rest has Icebreaker every 3rd row. And so I'm doing that with the sleeve as well. Every 3rd row I'm doing one of Icebreaker until that's gone, because you can see there's significantly more of this. When Icebreaker's gone, I'll just finish the sleeve with this. And I think, honestly, that's when this project is going to start flying, because at the moment I am like twisting my yarns and, you know, picking it up every other row and counting rows to make sure I do that. And once it's down to one colour, it'll just fly. It'll probably have some kind of pooling, like you can see there already. That's looking darker on that side, maybe lighter over there. That's okay. It's a hand-dyed sweater and I'm going to love it. This is also the most delightful squishy yarn. I love Maximu Yarn's yarn. Like, I love his dyeing, but I love his yarn. And he's from the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria, Australia. The other thing about this is I did split for the sleeve, because I'm not doing it to a pattern. It's just kind of knit until it's right. So I did split what I had left of both Art Room Brawl and Icebreaker, so that I knew what I had to work with for each sleeve. And when I split it, I think one was like 0.5 grams less than the other. So that's the one I started with the first sleeve. And what I will end up doing, at the moment I'm just marking decreases, but I will end up marking every 10 rows so I know how many rows until I get to the cuff. Yeah, so anyway, I have 2 sleeves to go. I'm no longer on Sleeve Island. I really just need to pick this up and work on it to get through the rest of the second colour, and then it'll be smooth sailing from there. I am doing this now currently on my Chowgu. I got some interchangeable twist shorties. I think it's the blue set. Are they in here? Yes, they are. Yeah, so the twist shorties. I got these around Christmas time specifically to do sleeves. I have... Ooh, is that what I need? Oh, perfect. I have these, which are currently 4mm, from my Mindfulness interchangeable set. I'm not going to put them away. My Mindfulness interchangeable set, and this is what I was using for the rest of the body, 4mm, but obviously I had it on a larger cable, and I put it onto the smallest cable so that I could do the sleeves, but that's, like you can see, that's still too big for a sleeve. Hi. So I took them off, changed them over to the Chowgu ones, which are much more sleeve appropriate size. Look at the difference there. Yeah, so I've got the Chowgu ones on now, but I'm going to keep them out because in a minute, no, I'm dropping them on the floor. I'll show you why. Yeah, and I'm going back and forth between whether I like doing sleeves magic loop or short circumference. I bought the twist because I thought short circumference would be really helpful. And I think, to be honest, if it's a plain knitting sleeve, I probably prefer magic loop, just like I do with socks. If it's colour work, 100% prefer short circumference. 100%. I didn't show you what I'm wearing. I was left unsupervised and the fabric shop was open. In my defense, I was left unsupervised and the fabric shop was open. I bought this top from Spreadshirt here in Poland, and yeah, I was buying some other things and I saw this and I was like, that is 100% me. If I'm left unsupervised and I am near a shop that is open, I'm there. Although not so much anymore because I just have a lot of fabric. So I'm not buying fabric at the moment, but otherwise this would totally have been me. All right. The next one on my list to show you, I am really, really excited about. This, yeah, you haven't seen it. And it's kind of a little funny to me that you haven't seen it. Yeah, this is my Weekender Light. So you might remember this yarn that I spun up. I showed you beginning of March, I'm going to say. I would have showed it on the podcast. I finally finished the spin, plied it together, and Andrew Mary announced her March to Me Knit Along, which she does every year, which is just knitting one of her shawls or jumpers, sweaters. And I was like, hey, look, she's announced this. I've just finished all of this yarn. I can cake it up, cast it on, do a sweater with the knit along. And I didn't. I did cake it up and it all sat there, and I don't know if it was that I couldn't find the needles. I think that was probably it. That I had run out of cables for my interchangeables because they were all being used for my 12 cast-ons. And my needle stash is looking incredibly slim right now because everything is in bags being used, especially for jumpers where you have 2 needles per bag because you have the ribbing and the normal. So I didn't want to go to bags and try and figure it out and, yeah, scab from other bags to make this work. And so it just sat there. And then I put in an order for some yarn for a different project, and I was like, hey, I can buy some more cables. The cables for this are about 40% of the price of an entire set of Chowgoos, which are my preferred needles. But because I had the right tips ready, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to buy another couple of cables, and that will give me flexibility rather than buying a new set of needles. So I did that, and they arrived, and I think part of having my monthly making kind of beginning and ending of the month, what I am noticing, I'm not choosing what I work on in the month based on what I can finish quickly, but toward the end of the month, especially last month, because I ran out of room on my list. Like, I wrote one underneath, and there was even another one that I started that I didn't write down because I forgot, but I also didn't have room. But toward the end of the month, instead of starting new things, I'm really kind of working on the things that I'm working on and seeing what progress I can make before I put things away for the end of the month. So last month I was trying to get that butterfly shawl to the end of section 2. I did start a new pair of socks, which I will show you. But like, I finished the baby blanket. I don't know what else I was doing. But I was working on things, not really wanting to start new things. And then we got to the 1st of April and I was like, I want to start something new. And it was just that simple. And because I had the needles come in, I had this yarn sitting there waiting, all caked up. I knew the pattern. I started it, and that was it. And then I got sick. In fact, I may have gotten sick before I actually started it. But I started it. No, I did. I started it, and then maybe the next day I was like, oh, I think I'm getting sick. And then I fully got sick. I got fully sick. I fully got sick. And I've had like days of just kind of sitting down and not doing much beyond caring for the kids in a very basic manner. My husband's done a whole lot of stuff while I've been sleeping and resting. But if I was sitting, I was knitting. If I was not able to sit, then I'd lie down and not knit, obviously. But if I was sitting, I was knitting, which meant this made a whole lot of progress. So this is actually the second skein of yarn from this. I had 3 fully normal, and then 1 that I applied 1 strand back on itself and plied it with a second. So they're all 3-ply, but the last one I think will be a thinner one because it's the 2 that had more meterage plied together. So I'm not going to say it's sorry, itchy ear. I'm not going to say it's going to be exactly the same, but I was like, if I need it for sleeves, I have it. I'm not going to need it for sleeves. I've used 1.5, I have 1.5 left, and I'm up to the sleeves. Guys, this is insane. Is this the front? Yeah. I have a body. This, it's just so much fun. Look at the colours and the changes. And you can see down here, so the sleeve splits here. So down here you can see a much shorter colour gradient because it's going the whole way around. Here you can see it get slightly bigger because it's back and forth, so it's more regular. If I cared about this kind of thing, then I could have done the whole pattern back and forward and then seamed it on the side. I don't care about this. I love watching how the yarn does its thing. Then it's got the ribbing at the top, and it has, it's inside out. My goodness, it's inside out. Let me show you again. So you can see the right side out for this has the curl bumps, and it just kind of gives a more fluid look. It's got a faux seam down the middle, which you can see this line here, that's deliberate. That's part of the pattern. The pattern, sorry, I'm talking behind this. The pattern is The Weekender by Andrea Mowry of Joe Renee Knits. And so it's got, the faux seam down the middle. The top has this ribbing detail, and then it's got an exposed seam. Can you see that? So there, that part there is an exposed seam, which is just a nice little detail, to be honest. I've got another jumper I'm going to show you in a minute, which is also by Andrea Mowry with a similar ribbed detail with an exposed seam at the top. This is a boat neck jumper. So I finished this, very excited, tried it on, and I'm just not sure because it sits here on my neck, and I don't like when jumpers kind of touch my neck in this particular spot. I've heard other people say it before. When I first heard someone say it, I was like, really? That's a bit strange. But then I noticed the same. Like if I have a jumper that kind of sits right there, like higher, don't mind. Lower, don't mind. But it's just this like one little spot that if that is where it stops, I'm constantly pulling it, tugging it, trying to stretch out the neck. I knew that may be a problem. I know that Andrea Mowry has done a crew neck version of this now, which is DK weight. And so I believe it's DK weight. And so I thought about buying that pattern as well, but I already have the worsted weight and the fingering weight. I could have adjusted the neck to make it a crew neck based on other patterns that I have of hers that are similar style with a crew neck. I didn't do any of that. I just knit it to pattern because that's where I was at. When you're sick, you just want to do the simple thing. So I did the simple thing, and we will see at the end whether I regret it or not. Yeah, we'll see. There are things that I can do if I really don't like it. But at the moment, that's fine. Also, when I put the sleeves in, I know that that's going to kind of pull this down a little bit. It'll have other things that happen. This is the back. It'll have other things that happen when it's snowing outside. It's April 10 at 12:54 p.m. and it's snowing outside. Sorry. I know when I block it and I finish it and I add the sleeves that the way that it sits will be different. So I'm not worried about it at the moment. I'll figure that out when I come to it. I did want to mention the yarn that I used, because it's hand spun, and it's my first sweater quantity that I've spun, so it's very special to me, but it's definitely not perfectly consistent. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, but there are some bits in there that are so thin and others that are quite thick. I estimated it. I didn't do grist. I didn't figure out like how many meters per grams or anything like that. I just looked at it and went, that looks like probably a heavy fingering or a light sport. There are some parts that would be definitely sport, some parts that would be light fingering, but you know, generally in that kind of range. So without swatching, I just upped my needle size and went down a pattern size. And we'll see, I haven't measured it or anything to see if I'm getting gauge. I did notice that when I got to the back section here, it was much thinner than most of the other parts of the sweater. Like as in the fabric itself, the yarn itself just got very thin in that section, which is fine. I can't do anything about that now, but I just found that very interesting that just like this section here is a lot thinner. Yeah, so that's kind of what I do when I'm not gauge swatching. If I look at the pattern and I'm like, I'm not sure that I'm going to hit gauge, and then I'll just adjust for something along the way rather than actually do a gauge swatch and find out. But like with this, if I had done a gauge swatch, if I'd used this section, then it would have been very different to this section anyway. So I did go up a needle size both for the ribbing. Did I go up for the ribbing? I think I did, both for the ribbing and for the body. Yeah. And all I've got to do now is pick up the sleeves, knit the sleeves, tie in all those ends. So that is why I was so excited about this one, because with me going up the needle size, that is what I need for my sleeves. So I'm going to put that into this bag so that I have that when I am ready to do the sleeves. And I think I will do these sleeves magic loop rather than small circumference, which works. This one is in a bag that I also made, but not the same. This is a round bottom that I put down on something. Peter Rabbit fabric from Spotlight Australia. And then this one here is a tilde. If you know, you know. I can't really tell you more than that. It's called tilde. I made some of these both for knitting bags and for kids' toys, and I've just assumed them all back for my knitting. But when I started, the first skein just fit, the first cake fit perfectly in the bottom, and now I've got two in this tiny bag, and I keep thinking I should get a new bag, but also it'll be finished really soon, right? I've just got 2 sleeves to go. So quick. All right, the next one that I have to show you, where did you go? Under my bag. Another project bag that I made, but this one is drawstring. I do not have a tutorial for this. This one is also Maxima Yarns. I love this. It is called Crime Scene. And I bought it, this one is a gift. And so I decided it was time to cast these socks on. And that is what I've done so far. Very, very little bit. I don't know if you're even going to be able to see that. I have decided to do a little bit of texture, but I've only done 1 repeat. And it's very, very busy yarn, so I'm not even sure you're going to be able to see it well when I do more. But I decided that for this person, I wanted a rib. I thought a rib would be, yeah, give them flexibility in terms of wearing the sock. but I didn't want to do the same pattern I did in my last sock, and I decided to try something different. So I've only done a tiny bit of that. We'll see how much I get going with that in a little while. But that'll be 64 stitches on 2.5mm needles, and I use ChowGoo Red Lace Magic Loop for most of my socks. So yeah, very, very quick one there. The next one that I have to show you is almost finished. This is a Muscle Burra. Muscle Burra is a pat hatten by Ysolda Teague, like a beanie pattern. And basically you cast on, you increase, so you've got that rounded hat, you knit a long tube, and then you decrease the same way, and then you fold it in half, like you fold it inside itself, and you end up with a beanie that you can also fold the brim up of. I'm not sure if I'm showing that well, probably not. They are brilliant because it's fingering weight, but you will have double thickness everywhere, and then the part you fold up becomes quadruple thickness. It is so warm. I wear these every day. Like this morning, I was wearing one of these that I'd made. My son was wearing one of these that he made. My daughter wasn't, because she was given a really big fluffy unicorn beanie that comes down over her ears, and so she wears that all the time. But she has them for if she can't find her unicorn beanie. Thanks, Grandma and Grandpa. Anyway, I love these hats. I wear them all the time. I think Ravelry keeps track of every time you make it, and I think this is like number 17 or 18 Muscle Burra that I have made. I love it because it is just plain knitting. So the other day, in fact yesterday, I had about 4 inches left to knit on it before I started the decreases. And I went to coffee with a friend, and we sat there for, I'm trying to think, maybe 2 hours talking, 2 and a bit hours talking, and I knit those 4 inches because I was taught, like I ate a little bit, I had a drink, but most of the time I was just sitting there knitting and chatting, and then that was pretty much it. And so yeah, all my friends know that I do this. They don't expect anything else of me. It's not rude when I do it. I do put it down occasionally if I feel like that's appropriate. But yeah, having something with plain knitting that I can do in those kinds of situations is great. I did work on this one during my Polish class the other day because it was just knitting and purling straight lines. And so I did work on that during Polish, and my teacher thought that was pretty funny. But otherwise, this I've done a lot during my Polish classes as well. It's just a lot of fun. This is all the yarn I have left. So you can absolutely have a look at that. And this is not that one. Not that one. I have so many tags in this bag from the last things I made in here. This is Winterweide. Of course, the tag has broken into Winterweide opal, and it is colour 11195. Yeah, it is, yeah, opal self-patterning yarn, which means that all of these things is just plain stockinette. I was knitting on it at school the other day, and one of the other mums was like, "Whoa, that's so complicated." I'm like, no, it's the most simple thing you can do. Straight knitting. It's just about the yarn. So yeah, don't know who this one's for. I mean, I would totally wear it. My daughter would probably love it, but it's not. I did it in my size because I do love the yarn. I don't need another one. I have my one, which I wear every day, and I absolutely love. I actually have two. I have one that is done with a black wattle yarn, one black wattle yarn and fibre, and it is so soft. I'm trying to think of the fibre version, but I'm pretty sure it has like alpaca and maybe a little bit of silk in it as well. It's so warm and it's so light, and so I love wearing it because it's light, like it doesn't feel heavy on my head. And then I have another one which is a handspun that I spun and then knit up, which I also love, but I don't wear it as much because it's not as warm. Anyway, so I don't know who this is for. It'll be for someone. I'm not fussed. I do very, very, very occasionally I sell things that I make, but very, very occasionally, only if I have a surplus. Usually I'm more likely to give it away. So I'll probably put that when it's finished away. And then if we have a visitor and we're going for a walk and they don't have a beanie, I can pass that on or whatever. Yeah, I really, really enjoy making those. However, I'm going to finish that in the next day or two, and I don't know if I'm going to cast another one on. I'm trying to figure out where my head's at, because at the moment I'm like, I've got sleeve knitting, and sleeve knitting is as simple as that. But the things are bigger. So I'm like, if I'm going to a cafe with a friend, I can take a jumper and work on the sleeve. That's not a problem. I can do that during polish. That's not a problem. I've got my sock if I am out and I want to be portable and small. I'm like, do I need another muscle borrow right now? And if I do, what yarn am I going to do? Because that one, it was just calling to me. It was like every time I opened my craft room cupboard door, I was like, I want to make that into a muscle borrow. And it was that simple. And so then it was like, well, I need to make that into a muscle borrow. But now I'm like, do I want to do that again? Or do I want to make socks? Am I starting to move into like sock season? Summer sock camp will be coming up soon. Like, I'm still working on jumpers. I don't want to start a jumper for my daughter because she's going to grow so much before she could actually wear it. But I do want to start a jumper for my daughter because I have jumpers for my daughter waiting for me to make for her. I've got some t-shirts that I want to knit. The Salty Air Tee by Samantha Gurin. I have, I think now 3 quantities of yarn to make that, and I haven't even made one. And so I'm like, I'd like to make that and then decide whether I want to make more or whether I am happy with just one of those and pivot to a different pattern. I just don't know, guys. But I think what I've noticed the progression over the last couple of months is I start having these ideas and thinking, but I haven't really decided what I want to do. And so I keep working on the things that I'm working on, keep focusing. I do have, for my April making, I've got 2 more things to show you. Yeah, I've got 2 more things to show you for my April making, what I've already done to date. But those are things that I will keep working on throughout the month. So I'm like, I have plenty to work on at the moment. And then I have another one that I want to work on this month, but I haven't actually even pulled that out yet because, again, this one has been getting all my attention. So I'm trying to figure out how I work this out. But what I've been noticing is because I have things to work on, when there's something I want to start, it just kind of ruminates there. And then by the time I actually start it, it's almost like an out-of-body experience is way too much. But like, it almost feels like it accidentally happened. Like the socks. I knew that was going to be my next sock cast on. I knew the yarn. It was just kind of sitting there. I had an idea for a thing, and I just kind of like sat down one day and cast them on, and then I was like, I wasn't planning to do that today. It just kind of happened. The weekender was a similar thing. I was just, doing my thing, and then I was like, actually, I have the thing now. I'm going to go and get that out and start it. And then, 10 days later, I have almost a whole sweater. Sickness definitely helped with that, but it's that kind of like, I start to think about it, and the thinking about it is kind of half the battle, so that when I decide, it just kind of happens by itself. So I don't know, maybe that'll be next month. I know I mentioned maybe doing like 1 cast on a month, and then I didn't do anything about that, but then I kind of have been doing that. Because last month I did it with these, is the first of the month. I cast them on and then I finished them within 7 days. And then this month I cast on the sweater, and I've just been working on that not monogamously, but pretty heavily working on that. So yeah, part of me is like, is this just what I'm doing? Is that I cast on something on the first of the month that I've kind of been ruminating on for a couple of weeks, get to the first, cast it on, work on all my things, and then the next month cast on a new one. I don't know, guys. That's kind of what seems to be happening, but I don't know. All right, I have 2 more things to show you. There you go. You got a little chat about what I'm planning to make with no commitment and in the middle of showing you all my whips. All right, so this next one is my granny wrap shawl. I am using, oh no, I do. All right, I'm using this yarn, which is by Miss Nitsky. It is beautiful and soft, and I'm so glad I have more. And it is Bamberino colorway Amber Gold, 60% superwash merino, 25 bamboo, 25 nylon. It is beautiful. And this is in my shawl. Now this shawl has a bit of a history. I started it last year probably. Couple of years ago, up here, I currently have paper pieces, but I put up here skeins of yarn that I wanted to knit and crochet throughout the year. I think that was beginning of 2023. And I did some of them, but I didn't do all of them. And these 3, at least this one and this one here, I'm not sure if this one here, and another one, were all in that. And so I didn't get to it in 2023, but I saw them together sitting up there and I was like, they would make a beautiful shawl. And so I started off. This one is a colorway that I dyed with a friend, Rosie. Hey, Rosie. Which we called Poland. Very subtle, kind of based on the buildings in town squares and things like that. This one, I believe, is it 3 Trees? No, it's called Endurance. Maybe it is 3 Trees Fibre Crafts. It's called Endurance, and it is delightfully soft. I used some in a blanket, and then I had about 80 grams left over for this. This one is Martin's Lab. I cannot tell you the colorway, but it's Martin's Lab on his Tough Sock, and then the Bamberino from Miss Nitsky. So this is, it's actually a very Polish shawl in terms of meaning. So this one we dyed called Poland. Endurance I bought when I was moving to Poland because I knew that it would take a lot of endurance to live in another country, away from family, make new friends, learn new cultures, all those kinds of things. This one was a present from my husband not long after we moved to Poland, and also the dyer is Polish. And then this one, the dyer is Polish as well, and I bought at either my first or second yarn show in Poland. So very Polish meaning, this shawl. Personal meaning to me related to Poland. Anyway, I did have another colorway that I was going to do at the end of this, but it was green. It still had threads and things in it, but it was mostly green. And I started it and just went, nah, don't like it. Use that to make socks for my brother. Beautiful. And then I decided to leave the shawl finished here, but I didn't use it. Mostly because this one is also a tough sock and I didn't like it right next to my neck. And so I did want to turn it back into, I had decided to stop when it could be like a nice little cowl or wrap or whatever. And I decided to turn it back into a proper shawl where I could have it around and warm and hug, and oh, it's going to be delightful. So you can see there, it's getting longer. I've got, where does it say? Last time I finished a row, I had 22.3 grams of this left. So when I do finish this row, I will weigh this again, see how many more rows I can get. And then I do have this that I'm going to finish it off with. So it'll just end with a bit of a pop of a darker orange, and I'm really excited. This is your Vol Superwash colorway. Here we go. your roll, laying yarn superwash, and where's the colour? Oh. I think this one here is the colourway 83.0215. Yeah, so I'm just going to use all of this. This is only 50 grams, and so when I know how many grams I'm using per row, I'll have a better idea of how many rows I can get. It'll probably kind of come to here and then finish, but that's still significantly more than what it was when I stopped last time. And like that, the point is coming down to my butt on my back. But yeah, definitely having just that little bit more will make it that little bit more crazy. And this is good weather for shawls, or at least not right now, but give it 2 days and it'll warm up again and we'll have good weather for shawls. It's been insane. I'm doing that, I didn't show you, on a 3.5 millimeter hook, and I'm using Clover, and it's just the Granny Wrap, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. Everything I've spoken about today, except for the surrounded quilt, I have project pages for on Ravelry, and they will have all the patterns, free or paid for, linked in the project pages. So if you're interested in what I'm talking about, you want to know more or how to access this free pattern, click on the link below. It'll take you to Ravelry, which will have the pattern linked. That one, I think it's Annaboo's House. I could have that wrong. But it's a free pattern on her blog, so you can access that. Now this last one is one that took a break last month, and I got it back out this month, and I'm so excited because when I was thinking about what I would work on this month, and I hadn't yet started my weekender sweater, and I knew that the March to May knit along had started and that whips were allowed, and I was like, well, I have another Andrea Mowry jumper that I've started that I haven't finished, and maybe I could finish that for this knit along. I do knit alongs very loosely. I work on them if I want to, and if I don't, I don't. But I was like, this one I could probably actually do. And so I pulled out my framed sweater. This one I started, this was her Rhinebeck sweater for last year, and I started it when she released the pattern. I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I'm going to knit that, and I know that, so I'm just going to buy the pattern now and start. And I had yarn. So this one is handspun, and it is Corriedale. I bought 200 grams carded from Fibre Art Shed, who I'll also link down below. Yeah, so I got a 200 gram carded bat, and I just did long draw. It was my first real try at long draw, and I'd split it up into two, and I spun one half of that, and then I plied it up thinking that it was done, and then I weighed it and I was like, that wasn't 200 grams. And so then I went looking and I found the other half, and so then I spun the second half up and plied that on itself. And so one half was much squishier and fluffier and thicker than the other. This is the thicker part. And so you may see, you may not see, but you may see when you have a look at the sweater that there is a significant difference in the way that it looks, because the colour is just that much, that yarn is just that much thicker. And so it's definitely knitting up plumper, and I would say nicer, maybe. Anyway, this second colour is Jello e Tiara. And it is Maximu yarns, not Maximu, sorry, Malabrigo Rios. So it's 100% superwash merino. So I've got superwash and non-superwash, using it together, don't care. And for this one, I had two skeins of the bluer and one skein of the browner, but they were actually the same colour. They were both Yellow e Terra. But you can see definitely difference in dye lots there. And so when I bought them, I knew that, and I was originally going to use them for an all-over colour work and stripe them. However, that one didn't go ahead, and so I had 3 skeins of this sitting there, and when I saw that this one needed something like that, I thought, brilliant. So I decided to use the browner one because this pattern for my size called for 3 different yarns, 2 for the contrast colour, or 2 for the main colour, 2 for the contrast colour, and then 1 for another contrast, which would be like the main colour of the cuff and the body and like the ribbing of the body and the collar yoke. And so I thought if I do this one for all of that, and then the other one that I had 2 skeins of for the main body, that should work. And so far it has worked beautifully. Let me flip this in the right way and I will show you. I do, when I'm knitting colour work, for small circumference colour work, I do knit it inside out. And so that's why this is inside out. Look at that. Because when I'm knitting, obviously I take the tips off, but I just knit like this. And so what you see when you're doing that is you're still seeing the fabric that you're used to seeing when you knit, but it's at the back of the loop instead of the front of the loop. But it just means that my tension and floats are better. So let me flip this in the right way. And we can have a look how close I am. All right. I'm so excited for this to be done. So this is a worsted yarn, and so you can see here it's still got the ribbed yoke with the exposed seam. Maybe you can see that that the Weekender has, except it's much thicker, and this one has a rounded neck rather than a straight boat neck. So definitely don't have the same concerns there. I have finished one sleeve, which I think I'd done last time I showed you. And so, yeah, very excited one sleeve is done. And the other sleeve is so close to being done. The only difference I did with this one, I'm trying to think if I did any changes in terms of knitting and needle size, and I honestly can't remember. I started this 6 months ago, but I did decide the original pattern had 6 stars down the front, and so I decided to turn that into 5, and it had 5 stars on the sleeve, and I'm turning that into 6. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm almost finished. I'm more than halfway through. Oh, I am that close, gosh. I'm more than halfway through. I think I have 4 rows left of the star and the cuff. And that is it. Oh, and then obviously all the ends, which I'm going to weave in. I'm getting better at that. Oh boy. Anyway, so I'm really, really close to this. Again, I'm going for cropped. The original design is cropped. I think, I'm trying to remember if I went up a needle size, or what. This, I mean, you can see the difference of that, surely. Maybe. So this one, like, it is kind of thick and thin in places, where this one, the white is just all quite thick. And so in terms of like bulkiness, this one just feels thicker. I'm hoping that when I'm wearing it, it won't bother me, and that blocking it out may help. I don't know if oh yeah, they look about the same size. So, you know, we'll go with that. But maybe even just the stars in this one are a little more pronounced. That's probably the white. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm so close to being done. I've gone for, like I said, a slightly more cropped look. Again, the plan is to wear it over dresses. I don't know, like that is sitting on my waist. Okay, so yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think my raglan one, I was planning to make more cropped, but then the previous raglan I made was way too cropped, and so I went a bit longer for that one. But this one, I think, is going to be a good good length. We'll see. I am very excited. This one I kind of put into a 30 minutes of knitting kind of spot this week because I realized I was all the way up here at the beginning of the week and I knew I wanted to get this done this month because while the knit along continues to next month, I thought it would be great. I can wear it this month. I can finish it. It's still cool enough to wear it. But I knew I needed to work on it. And I knew that I only had one sleeve yet left and that's only 6 stars. So I decided I'd work on a star a day. And I skipped one day for whatever reason. And then last night I was like, I've got 2 stars in the cuff. Can I do it? No, I couldn't. But I do only have 4 rows and a cuff left. So I will try and finish that tonight. And then I can sew in all the ends and lock it. And next time I come and share with you, I can share with you a finished sweater. Oh, I'm so excited. Like, as someone who makes quilts, this design is just very special. It is kind of the patchwork star design. And also this is, I believe this will be the first jumper I make with handspun. Obviously I'm making another one that's entirely handspun now, but this will be the first time I've used my handspun in a jumper. So it's also special for that. And I love that I could buy 200-gram bat and that is enough to use as the contrast colour in this for my size. And you know, I'll still have some left over. It's great. Anyway, so this is squishy and delightful. I did spin the Corriedale supported long draw, so it is a woolen spun and very fluffy. Oh, it's going to be so warm. What else do you need to know about that? I started that one on the 8th of August 2024, so that is my second oldest whip, and it should be finished tonight. I probably would have finished it tonight and recorded tomorrow if I was going to have time to record tomorrow. But I'm not going to have time to record tomorrow. So I'm recording now so you can see it. And I'll just show it again next time. Maybe with another couple of finished objects too. I think that is everything that I brought to show you. I do have, let's have a little look here. So I still have 10 of my 12 cast-ons that I have not finished. If I finish the raglan, that'll bring it down to 9. The other project that I want to work on this month, and I haven't decided which one is the Kookaburra and one is the Rose. So the Kookaburra sweater or the Kookaburra jumper, it's a Polish designer who lives in Sydney, and I started it on day 8 of the 12 cast-ons? It is so much fun. Like, it's a focus knit because it is a charted pattern, but I had such fun doing it and I haven't touched it again since I cast it on. And then the other one that I really want to keep working on is the Rose cardigan, which is also a focus knit. It is a lot of plain knitting, but it has a cable design. Actually, you cast on the cuff. So you're knitting down here, and it does have a cable design on it. And so I want to work on one of them for my next focus knit when my framed sweater is finished. Because I know the butterfly papillion, while I can do that and talk with people now, it is still a focus knit. And I really enjoyed having that, and now the framed sweater. And so I'm just looking for something to feel that, like, I just want to sit down and knit and not, you know, talk to people or whatever. And so I think one of those would be really cool. So if you remember, I think the Rose was day 11. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go have a look at day 8 and day 11 of the 12 cast-ons, and you will see the beginnings, very beginnings of both of those. But yeah, if you have a preference of which one you would like to see me work on, then let me know and I might pick that one up again. Otherwise, yeah, it's been somewhat chill around here. I've been sick, so I have a lot of things to catch up on. I'm going to do a lot of washing this afternoon. No, I've been catching up on the washing. I just haven't been folding. So I need to do a lot of folding this afternoon. The kids going really well. I did a bit of a cleanup of this area yesterday. The kids are getting older and they're getting better at cleaning up after themselves. This morning, after yesterday, I cleaned up because there were a few things that they hadn't cleaned up that I knew were just going to get worse and worse and worse, and that we wouldn't have time to do it together. So I did that by myself. Excuse me. And my oldest one, he's so sweet. He just was like, yes, Mum, thank you. Like, I can see you did that. Thank you. And I'm like, oh, sweetheart, you're like starting to notice and, appreciate the work that parents put into things. He's 6. Very, very sweet. Anyway, so I cleaned up. He appreciated that. This morning he woke up and he and his sister have just pulled things out and made a mess. Not the same kind of mess that I cleaned up yesterday, 100% not. But when he went off to school this morning, he's like, Mum, can you please not pack it up? And I was like, oh, what do you mean? He's like, we want to come back to it. And I was like, will you come back to it this afternoon? Because you don't normally, play in that space in the afternoon. He's like, yes, we will. Okay. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking and I'm like, I cleaned this yesterday and now I've got stuff everywhere. But honestly, it's just a reminder of how my kids are growing up, and they are beautiful, beautiful. So I'm not stressed. I'm not worried if they don't play with it this afternoon. We'll pack it up before bed. But yeah, it was just very cute. They were playing mums and dads. So I have a boy and a girl. They were playing mums and dads. And so my son came down and said, Mum. No, he was whispering, Mum, Mum. And so he was talking to me in a whisper, and he's like, yeah, the dog is asleep. And I was like, oh, is that why we're whispering? Okay, great. Dog's asleep, we're whispering. We can play this. So then he's like, yeah, no, we've got 4 babies. We've got a dog, a rabbit, and 2 cats. And I was like, all right, that's a lot. And then my daughter comes down with those 4 and a llama. And my son's like, no, we don't have a baby llama. The other 4 are babies. And she's like, no, we have a baby llama. We have 5 babies now. And it just reminded me so much of an old married couple. A married couple who have 4 kids. And the wife's like, now look, we need to have another baby. Whoops, look, we just had another baby. But, they're 3 and 5, and 3 and 6. And it was just so cute. So cute. Anyway, and then, my daughter, being a 3-year-old, put the llama under her dress and was like, look, she's in my belly. And then was just walking around, kind of very, very accurately portraying a pregnant woman in like the mannerisms and stuff. Ah, man, it was so cute. Clearly I've moved off knitting and into just life stuff, but so cute. So yeah, what else has been going on? The weather has been nuts. We've had actual snow that stuck to the ground. After having almost no snow all winter, or like significantly less snow than normal all winter, we've had quite a few flurries and some snow sticking in April. Next week is Easter. I don't know if we're going to have snow or not. Like, I keep wanting to put the snowshoes away and being like, can I? Can I? Is that okay? I don't mind it. I love snow, and it hasn't been a problem. We haven't taken our snow tires or anything, but it's just, I'm ready for the blue skies and the sun. I'm ready for it. We've had some tulips blooming, some other flowers blooming, which has been pretty exciting. This weekend it's meant to go back up into the teens, Celsius, into the teens, and so we're thinking maybe getting out and enjoying some sun. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, in terms of knitting, I think I'm just going to keep working on this. My focuses for this month is framed. So the star sweater, the basic raglan, and the weekender. I would love to get the sleeves done on all 3 of those because I don't like Sleeve Island. Sometimes I don't care. These ones clearly are taking a bit of time. So if I can get the sleeves done on those 3, I will be very happy. I'll finish the muscle burra and figure out if I cast one on. I'll keep going on the sock probably as my travel knitting. I would like to finish the granny shawl. Oh, I did realise. I mentioned last time I was working on the Jelly Roll blanket by Kay Jones. And I mentioned that my finger had been getting really sore. And I noticed that soreness when I was working on that blanket. So I thought that it was because of that blanket. And I couldn't figure out how my knitting was causing that pain. But I kind of, that's fine. That's what's happening. I think it was this. I worked on this so much and so quickly. Like, this whole thing was done in a week. Yeah, a week. And so I was doing this every day, and I wasn't necessarily relaxed when I was doing it. So I was, it's snowing again. So I was doing it, but I was quite tense as I was doing it. Anyway, I think that's where the pain was coming from. I did also start working on the granny wrap shawl at about the same time. And so I was doing lots of crochet and a little bit of knitting. And so I think it was like my tensioning for my crochet that was causing this finger to be sore. That I think now is like, if I do that, there's like maybe slight pain, but generally that's all gone away. So I can start working on the granny wrap shawl again. But that's why I was going to try and get that finished before the end of March. But my finger was just too sore. So I've given it a week, maybe week and a half, 2 weeks break, and I think I could get back to that now. So I'll put that one into my April making, and we'll see where we go from there. I do want to start the salty air tea. Would anyone like to do a salty air tea make along, knit along, or just like a tea knit along? Because last year was the first time I knit a t-shirt, and I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot from it, but I want to make more. And the longer I live here in Poland, the more I understand the kind of clothes that I need, and the more I would like to make them rather than buy them. And I think there is definitely a place here for woolen tops, or woolen and silk tops, in terms of breathability, in terms of freshness, kind of has that walk between for really cold, for warm and cooler. You can put it on, anyway, it's flexible. That's what I want to say. It's flexible, and I'd like to make them rather than buy them. Like, I do have a merino singlet that I wear every day. And so I'm like, I could knit a singlet and wear it rather than buying singlets to wear. So yeah, if you're interested in doing either a salty air tea knit along or just a knit along for t-shirts in general, let me know. I'll probably start at the beginning of May, knowing how things are working. So if you're interested, let me know. And I don't know how official or unofficial it would be, whether it just be actually knitting along or if there'd be, prize or something. I don't know. Let me know. What do you think? Cool. I'm going to wrap this up. I think this has been a long one. This has been a long one. Thank you so much for joining me today. As always, I'd love to hear what you are working on. So if you have been working on something today, or just what you're working on in general in April or the last week or two, please let me know. If you're not knitting today while you're watching this, you're doing something else, but you are otherwise knitting on stuff, then let me know what you're doing right now and what you're knitting on. I'd love to be able to chat with you a little bit about that in the comments. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, it just helps other people know that I'm here, what I'm doing. But yeah, it's been really nice chatting with you today, and I will see you next time. Happy making!